With school starting back again next week, we're also going to take a look at some ways to save for the kids' education. RESPs are one of the greatest ways to do it. What does that actually mean? How do you get money out of an RESP? What are some alternatives as well? With school starting back up next week, I thought it was a great time to sit down and have a look at some great ways to save for post-secondary education and some ways to start taking that money out. You'll really realize here that not all money coming out is exactly the same. And if you're already in that position, you know that the cost of post-secondary education in Canada can be quite expensive. For tuition fees to books to living expenses, the financial burden can be overwhelming for many families and students. And one of the most popular ways to save for post-secondary education is through the Registered Retirement Savings Plan, or the RESP. But there are a few other strategies to consider. We're going to need more time to get into some of those than we have here today. RESPs are essentially a tax-sheltered investment account. They're designed to help parents, grandparents, and other family members save for a child's education. Contributions to an RESP are not tax deductible like an RRSP, but the income and gains generated inside the account grow tax-free until that they are actually withdrawn. A key component to the RESP is the Canada Education Savings Grant, or CESG. This is something that the government provides, which is 20% of the first $2,500 contributed annually per child, up to a lifetime maximum of $7,200. Additionally, low-income families may qualify for the Canada Learning Bond, or the CLB, which provides up to $2,000 per child. So not only do you receive the $500 per year on that $2,500 that you contribute, but you can also go back and catch up on unused CESGs from previous years if you're unable to contribute the full $2,500 in any given year. The maximum CSG you can receive in any given year is $1,000, so you can go back 2 years at a time. If you have a child heading off to college or university this year, there are a couple things to keep in mind when making the withdrawals from the RESPs. If this is the first year, there is a 13-week rule. In the first 13 weeks of a full-time post-secondary program, the beneficiary can only withdraw a maximum of $5,000 of earnings and grants from the RESP. After this time, there are no limits. And although there are no restrictions, the income and grants are taxable to the beneficiary. So some tax planning is important, especially if that student has a part-time job. There are 3 different ways that funds can be withdrawn from an RESP, and each has its own set of rules and tax implications. The first is post-secondary education payments, or PSEs. These are withdrawn from the original contributions of the RESP, so it's a return on the investment initially. Since the contributions were made with after-tax dollars, they're not subject to the taxes upon being withdrawn. These can be withdrawn tax-free at any time. The second is educational assistance payments, or EAPs, and these consist of investment earnings and government contributions. This is a mix of interest, dividends, capital gains, CESGs, and CLBs. These amounts are taxable in the hands of the beneficiary, but since the students typically have a low income and with some proper withdrawal strategies, little to no tax should be paid by the student on these withdrawals. The third only exists if there are earnings still remaining after the beneficiary has completed their post-secondary education, and it's called the Accumulated Income Payments, or AIP. AIPs are taxable in the hands of the subscriber, which is the person who opened the account for the child, and this is typically the parent or guardian. These are taxable at the regular tax rate of that subscriber, plus an additional 20% penalty, and are subject to withdrawal tax at the time of withdrawal. You can, however, elect to transfer the AIP into an RRSP or spousal RSP upon up to a maximum of $50,000, provided you have sufficient contribution room. It's important to create a strategy on how to withdraw the funds from an RESP to ensure that the time and amount create the lowest tax implications. You've worked really hard to save for your child's education, so take advantage of the grants and bonds, and then just don't give it back to the government by being overtaxed.